Hi guys, it's Caroline, and today I'm going to be doing the reading habits tag. Now, I saw Meg with Books do this, and I thought, why not? I always think it's really fun to see like how different people are, because I've been reading how I am for so long that I forget that other people are just like completely different, even people who read like a ton of books. I think this tag is really interesting, so I'm gonna hop right on into it. First up is, do I have a certain place at home for reading? And really, no. I love reading in my bed. I love reading on the couch in the living room. We have a couch in a different room. I sometimes read in the kitchen. Like, I'll just read anywhere. And especially because I do audiobook reading, like literally I'll just be listening to an audiobook walking around the house, doing chores, anything. So I don't have like one designated spot that I feel like I have to read. I pretty much can read anywhere. Okay, next up is bookmark or piece of paper. Now, this is big bookmark for me. For one, I just like love bookmarks. I have a million of them, and each time I read a book, I kind of pick what bookmark I think fits it best, whether like thematically, or if I have a bookmark from a place where this book is set, or if I just feel like, oh, this is a really floppy book, so I think it deserves this kind of bookmark because like certain bookmarks work better in hardbacks versus paperbacks. And I have so many bookmarks. One of the things I used to do growing up, we traveled a ton, and so I always collected bookmarks from the places that we traveled to. So for instance, here are like three of my faves. This first one, when I was like a 10-year-old, we went to Japan because my mom was an exchange student when she was in high school, and we visited her family, and we did this like activity where you pressed flowers and you got to make them into things, and I made one into bookmarks. I have this one from when we went to Venice and Milan, and it's made like out of lace, which I really like, and it's got this really beautiful pattern in it, and I really like that one. The only thing is it's like really floppy, and it kind of gets hooked on stuff right there if you're not careful, so I have to be gentle with it. And then I have this one from Canada with this little moose. The only issue with him is he's real thick, so you have to be careful what kind of books you put him in, because otherwise he'll just fall out, because he's like really top heavy, as you can see, and he's also pretty thick. So some books just like want nothing to do with him. But yeah, I love collecting bookmarks. It's kind of a thing I do. I cannot be stopped, and so I feel really compelled to use them because I have so many of them. Just stop reading, or do you have to do it at like a chapter or after a certain amount of pages? Definitely not after a certain amount of pages. I'd say for the most part, I could just stop reading anywhere, and part of that's because I do read everywhere, and that'll become clear in like the rest of this video, but I will read on trains, buses, car rides, subway rides, like on my phone when there's a minute in between it. Like, I tutor, and sometimes kids like have to sit and do something on their own or watch a video, and then I can help, and I'll read for like 5 minutes, and then when they're done, they need my immediate attention, and I just have to put my book away. So I like constantly close books at random spots, and I'm pretty okay with that. If I'm just like reading for pleasure or like going to bed, I will normally pick like a page gap, a chapter stop, or at the very least, like if the sentence ends at the bottom of a page, flip it to the next one and put in my bookmark. But if I see that it's gonna be like 30 pages until that happens and I'm like ready to go to bed, like I have no issue just being like, like I will check, I'll see how far away are we from a good stopping point, and if it's not as far as I'm willing to go, then I'll just stop. So I'm pretty versatile, but I'm not like so chaotic that I just do that like with pleasure. Like, I really prefer there to be a stopping point, but I don't need it. Eat or drink while reading. Again, love to do it, but I don't feel like I always have to. Specifically, I do drink a lot, whether it's water, I love to make a little tea, or if I just already have a drink, like I'll just keep going with that. I try not to do too much eating while I'm reading, because I feel like I can't focus on like hold the book and also feed myself. But if I'm listening to an audiobook and eating, I do that all the time. Like especially if I'm like back in the day when you could just go out to eat, I would do that like on my own up at school, and I would sit and like listen to an audiobook or watch a YouTube video while I ate, and like that's reading. Multitasking, music or TV while reading, absolutely not. I can completely tune out anything for the most part, so if someone is watching TV in the same room as me while I'm trying to read, like I can completely do that. It doesn't bother me, but I would never turn on the TV in the hopes that I was going to get reading done. If I do that, like sometimes I do it with basketball, I will read during the ad breaks and watch the basketball during like the basketball. Music, I couldn't listen to anything that I already knew the words to. I actually don't have a problem if it's a song I'm unfamiliar with and the music is playing, but if it's a song that I would want to sing along to or that I already like know the words fairly well, that will distract me because I'll be trying to like sing it in my head. I don't reach for music. It's more of something if someone's playing music or if I'm in a cafe, like I normally can just keep reading, but I would never turn on music in the hopes that I was going to read. Reading at home or everywhere. I've kind of already answered this. I will read anywhere and everywhere. I listen to audiobooks constantly. Driving, when I'm waiting for things, when I'm like walking places, I just listen to audiobooks all the time. In the shower, and that counts as reading, so definitely reading everywhere. But I will also like bring a book, even if I think there's the smallest chance that I'll be waiting for even 5 minutes, I'm gonna bring a book. Next up is reading out loud or reading silently. Definitely silently, and that's partially because I like to read fast. Not necessarily I'm like trying to speed read or anything, but I can't even understand the people that listen to audiobooks and read along, because even at like a high speed, I find audiobooks, once I'm actually reading, the audiobook speaks way slower than my like eyeball reading pace. And so I can't read aloud fast enough to like keep up with my eyeballs. I did really love when I was a kid, my dad would read out loud to me, and then as I got older, he would have me read out loud to him, and then we would like go back and forth as kind of like a learning thing. And I have really great memories of that, and that was like a really special thing, and I think that's one of the reasons why I'm as big a reader as I am today. But like now as an adult, I don't particularly like reading out loud, and I don't particularly care to, and I would never do it just for like my own benefit. TBR or mood reader. I am a moody TBR reader is how I would classify myself. What that means is I set TBRs for myself all the time. This is my unread shelf, and I have it in an order that I think is roughly how I want to read it. Meaning, I don't necessarily mean I'm going to read this book and then immediately read that book. What I mean is like this box, I tend to get to these books before I get to these books. And I'm constantly shifting. I hear something about this book, so I move it up, whatever. So I kind of have a set TBR, and I tend to think I know what the next 10 or so books I'm going to read are. However, I set TBRs for myself all the time and like do not necessarily stick to them. And part of it's because a lot of the books I read are just what comes due for me on audiobook at the library, but like physically, there's all sorts of factors that tend to like get into my life, such as like I review for a publication, and sometimes I need to like read something for them. I'm a part of a book club, and so sometimes we decide, oh, this is what we're reading. I get really like, shiny thing when it comes to like TBRs or like live shows and stuff like that. So I'm constantly like bumping things up in that case so that I can like be a part of those things. So I tend to have set TBRs, but things are constantly getting in the way of why I can't. And also I always overestimate how many physical books of my own that I read in a given time period, because library books get in the way, life gets in the way, and like I just never read as many books as I think I do off of this shelf. But I do set TBRs and tend to stick to them. I just never complete them. Read ahead or skip pages. You think I'm skipping pages? Oh my God. I think, no skipping pages. For me, an ending is really important, particularly for things like mysteries and thrillers. To that end, I do not want to know the end until I reach the end, because the end is so important for me that I want to like figure out. I'm always trying to see if the end is surprising but inevitable. Like, did it surprise me, but did it also make sense? I like the journey. I like being on the journey, but do not show me pictures of my destination. I want to be surprised. Okay, breaking the spine or keeping it like new. For the most part, I'm a keep it like new kind of girl, unless there's a reason. My dad loves to collect these Signet Classic editions of classics that are really tiny. So like he'll have War and Peace that's like literally this big, but then will be almost as thick. And as a kid, I grew up like reading from those, and you like have to break the spine. Otherwise you can't read like the words on the very middle of the page because it's so fat. And for that, I broke the spine and I had no issue. Of course, like my dad was horrified. And if I ever lent someone a book that I had read and I didn't crack the spine and they cracked the spine for me, I would lose my mind. But sometimes I will purposely buy books that I know I will need to crack the spine, and I will purposely buy it in an edition that I know it won't bother me that it's cracked. So I'll purposely get a not as nice edition of a book or a hardback. A lot of the books that like I own and that are beautiful and like nice, I probably wouldn't write in them directly, although I don't think I have too much of an issue tabbing, unless it was like some crazy classic, beautiful, top-notch first edition or something, like a regular hardback that I think is pretty, like I would just tab it, you know, and have no issues. Okay, guys, that is the reader habits tag. I hope you enjoyed this video. Consider yourself tagged, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.